Welcome back to Greatest Games Never Played, a Lantern Light Studios production. I'm your host, Alex Fitzsimmons, joined as always by Reno Del Maro.
Hi, Norm.
It's Alex, but okay. What we do here on our podcast is we're going to take pivotal moments in sports history. We're going to take a deep dive and a look into what would have happened had those moments gone another way. Reno, why don't you hit them with the info and where they can follow us and find us at?
Absolutely, Alex. You could reach us at ggmpodcast.com. That's our website where you can check us out and see where we're also broadcasting. Also, you could hit us up on Twitter at ggmp podcast and hit us up with any questions. We'd love to hear back from you, feedback, and any topical stuff that we talk about, and give us any ideas of shows that you'd like to hear.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter. We need that. So without further ado, we're going to get our topic from sports legend Taro Sugimoto.
With the 199th pick in the 6th round of the 2000 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots selected quarterback Tom Brady out of the University of Michigan. The unheralded prospect would go on to defy all expectations. After spending his first year watching and waiting for his opportunity, the GOAT, as he is often referred, stepped onto the field in relief of the injured Drew Bledsoe in Week 2 of the 2001 NFL season. Starting with a blowout win over Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts, Brady would start the rest of the season and go on to lead Bill Belichick's Patriots all the way to a Super Bowl championship. Amassing over 74,000 yards through the air, en route to 541 touchdowns thrown and a career completion percentage of 63.8. Brady would collect 6 Lombardi trophies, more than any other player before him in the over 100-year history of the league, and thus establish one of the greatest team dynasties in sports history under Belichick's tutelage in the modern Super Bowl era. But what if Tom Brady never landed with the Patriots at pick 199? What if the 14 Pro Bowl selections, 3 MVPs, and 6 Super Bowl victories never took place with him at the helm of the New England Patriots? What if instead, another team decided to take a flyer on a quarterback with a knack for the comeback? What if one pick earlier, with the 198th selection, the Super Bowl champion St. Louis Rams decided to get their backup to another future Hall of Famer, Kurt Warner? Would Tom Brady still find a way to become the greatest of all time? What if the GOAT was a Ram?
All right, that's an interesting topic right there. What's also interesting about the topic is that our producer thought he was married to someone named Giziel. I don't know if that's alarming to anyone else, but I found that to be odd. So let's jump right into this. Tom Brady is going to get drafted one pick prior to where he was taken by the Patriots in 2000 draft. So he was taken, as we know, at 199th overall, kind of as a throwaway pick. I think they took a chance on a guy. That's really what it was. They didn't know what they were getting. Um, but in this scenario here, the Rams are going to do that one pick earlier, 198th. Your Super Bowl champion Rams take Tom Brady. What do you think about this, Reno?
Well, I'll tell you what, Alex. Let me first start off by saying that I love this topic because you know I love football. But I want to apologize to you and the audience. And I know you're going to be like, why? Why are you apologizing already?
Wait, can I guess?
Go ahead. Sure. Please do.
Is it because the last podcast you thought Michael Jordan weighed 245 pounds?
That is not it. But you know what? He probably weighs that now. You know what I mean? Like, if you looked at him in that chair, he's easily 245, maybe heavier. But you know what? Hey, the money lining his pockets also weighs him down. So good for him, man. And got to give a shout out to the GOAT too for the 100 million, man. Brilliant. You know what I mean? And it's a great cause. So no, I want to apologize because with this topic, I mean, you're not only talking about moving one player, one position, 1 year. You're talking about moving the GOAT. You know what I mean? And the GOAT is a Ram. I mean, one position higher. changes the entire dynamic of the NFL for the next 20 years. I
It
mean,
does.
this is a rabbit hole so deep and vast and dark that we're going down that I'm afraid, honestly, we're going to end up in the alternate 1985 timeline where Biff owns the casino and George McFly shot in the street. I mean, this thing could get crazy. I'm going to try to harness my energy and give you what I think would happen and hone it in and try to like focus on who's most affected by this
So,
because
so I'm gonna interrupt you here because I think the key question to this whole thing is is Brady more important to the Patriots than Belichick? Because if you don't believe that Brady's the guy, then maybe not a whole lot does change. Maybe you think, hey, Brady's a product of the Belichick system. We've seen guys come in. We've seen Matt Castle come in. We've seen Garoppolo come in. Even Jacoby Brissett looked good when he played. I'm just saying, like, there needs to be considered if you weigh heavily on the side of Belichick being the main wheel that turns the Patriots machine, maybe not a lot changes here.
well, I don't want to give away my argument off the bat, but I will say this. I feel like in order to get this thing going streamlined, right? In order to go forwards, we got to go backwards. I'm going to start
Mhm.
off by think of it like this, right? Who are the four entities here that are affected most by this, by Tom Brady being drafted 199th or 198th overall, excuse me, in the sixth round by the Rams, who won a Super Bowl in 1999 and go back in 2001? Well, the four entities are clear. I mean, it's the Rams, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots. They're the four that are most affected by this decision.
Not
I
not
mean,
not Kurt Warner.
he will be, but you know what? My art, where I'm going to go with this, Kurt Warner ends up kind of where he ended up originally when Mark Bulger came in, sort of
Okay,
like how Drew Bledsoe ended up once Tom Brady came in. So I'm going to go and throw some numbers at you to start with both the two main cogs of this, and it is Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, of course, right? So let's talk about what they did in real life, like what has happened currently, because I'm gonna have to touch on what actually happened before we could get in the space sphere here and jump alternate timelines, go back to go forward. You know, it's gonna get crazy. So
so we got 6 Super Bowl rings,
6 Super Bowl rings,
got 3 MVPs.
3 MVPs, 14-time Pro Bowler,
Yeah,
four.
how many first time how first team pros though? He got what 3? I got him down for
He
3.
is, yeah, he was 2007, 2010 offensive player of the year, 2009 comeback player of the year after the injury in 2008. He's a four-time Super Bowl MVP in 01, 03, 14 and 16. He's been a nine-time AFC champion. If you look at his numbers, just his numbers throughout his career, he has 285 career games started in 19 seasons. Actually, he was dressed for 285. He played in 283. He's 219 wins to 64 losses. He has a 774 career winning percentage. It's number one. It's point blank. He's got the highest winning percentage of any quarterback in history. He threw for
And the man's walking into this season as a 43-year-old man who never gets hurt.
the man outside of 2008. The man is iron and brawn. You know what I mean? He's all that is man. You know what I mean, he's an oak. Uh, he had 6,377 completions out of a little under 10,000 attempts. His career completion percentage is 63.8. He's got a little less than 75,000 career passing yards, 541 TDs, only 179 interceptions.
Oh boy, here
Four,
we go, the stats man Reno
that's
again.
I know. I don't want to get crazy stats, but you got to know what you're looking at before you could go back and figure out what he could have been somewhere else. So, 41 career playoff games. He's 30 and 11. He holds the record for most career playoff wins. He got a 73% playoff winning percentage, 45 game winning drives, 36 comebacks, 9 Super Bowl appearances. He's 6-3. Lost to the Giants twice, and of course the Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, the Tuck rule really doesn't happen without him, other than the fact that it did happen earlier in the season against them when the Jets coughed up the ball and a call was reversed. So you got Tom Brady. You know what he is. He's the greatest of all time. And there's nobody even close other than, I mean, Joe Montana was a few years ago, but once Brady surpassed him in the amount of Super Bowls and the yards on top of that,
Now,
he's untouchable.
I would say this. Let me play a little bit of devil's advocate here. The Super Bowls clearly make him the greatest of all time. If he doesn't have those rings, are we just talking about a guy who played a long time, so he put up numbers?
You're talking about Dan Marino. You know what I mean? Essentially, Dan Marino put up huge numbers, played a good career, probably around the same amount of years, maybe less. I got to check on that. It might have been like only 15 years, 16 years.
I guess my point being is he was rarely the best quarterback in the league on a season by season basis.
I mean, I guess you could argue that for a good portion of time, it was like, in the early 2000s, it was him, Donovan McNabb, and Peyton Manning. And I mean, Peyton Manning's incredible too, but Peyton Manning only ended up getting two championships, in his career.
Yeah,
And
and Roethlisberger's there as well.
Roethlisberger's up there,
And
but
then
I mean,
You got Eli Manning stepping in, getting some rings. I guess my point is that
guy's
his
got rings, but this guy,
he's got rings, but and he's got longevity and he's got the health that have allowed him to play till he's 43 years old, which is gonna increase your stats. There's a reason that these guys are breaking all the records now. You have your Tom Brady's and Drew Brees who are both playing. They're deep into their 40s now that are breaking all the records. They're tearing them down because they're just hanging around forever.
okay, so
Not
Tom Brady,
not that they're not great. I'm just saying that t I mean, these guys got 3 MVPs in his 19, 20 seasons. It's not like the guy was the best quarterback every single year he played. That's all.
no, but you know what? The NFL has such a dichotomy that there's always going to be guys who play great for a season here and a season there. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers who won Super Bowl, but is perennially considered one of the greatest quarterbacks not only in the NFL today, but is being called a Hall of Famer already before his career's even over. And and I think he's maybe won one or two MVPs. I'm not exactly sure. I apologize for that.
Whoa,
But
stats man. Where you at?
yeah, well, I wasn't looking at Rodgers on that, but I mean, every year it seems there's always somebody that comes along. Pat Mahomes, you got Lamar Jackson. I mean, yeah, sure, Tom Brady only had three in 20 years, but some people don't even get one in 20 years. You know what I mean, he had three, but he also has the rings. What counts in my mind is he might not had the greatest numbers out of anyone because remember that stat, that MVP stat on season is individual performance.
Yep.
And what matters most in the end is winning championships. And he might not have had the best numbers individually year to year, but he was still considered, I mean,
To
esoterically and on another level, one of the top five quarterbacks in the league
to be
annually. You know what I mean?
to be clear, this argument works for Tom Brady. Why doesn't it work for Bill Russell?
Well, Bill Russell, again, because here's the thing about Tom Brady and Bill Russell. Bill
Ah,
Russell
you like
played.
that.
No, I do like that. I do like that. Bill Russell did win a lot of championships and he's a great player, but his individual accolades also didn't match up compared to some of those other great players who had better numbers but didn't win as many championships. Tom Brady here has tremendous numbers. I mean, he's what, tied or surpassed Drew Brees, or maybe Drew Brees is ahead of him currently for the most yards. And then on top of that, he's got, I mean, the completions, the touchdowns. He's like top five in every stat for a quarterback in the history of the NFL. Oh, and on top of that, he has the most rings. So,
It may sound like I'm dumping on Tom Brady, and I'd like to point out that when I see him, what I think makes him great is at the end of the game, he's gonna win it. He's a comeback kid. When he was from Michigan, that's what he's done. When he wins games, sometimes ugly. He's not pretty to watch run. He throws a good ball, but it's not like he's throwing the ball 50 times a game, except for like what the 16-0 season. But
I agree 100%. He has that Joe Montana quality. Joe Montana was the same thing. You give Joe Montana 45 seconds with 90 yards to go, and somehow the guy wins the game, and you're like shaking your head, like, what the fuck just happened? That's
yeah,
Brady. You don't want to see Brady with the ball in his hand at the end of the game if you're the opposing team and an opposing fan. You're shitting yourself. I mean, I'll tell you right now, again, not to be a homer, but in 2017, Brady had the ball at the end, and I'm like, Jesus God, this guy's going to score a touchdown, possibly to Gronk, then get the 2-point conversion, and we're going to overtime. Shit. You know what I mean? Like, the guy had an opportunity.
No, no, it wasn't over. It wasn't over.
It was not over, and I mean, I literally shit my pants jumping up in the air screaming when they when that ball dropped, you know what I mean? Like, no lie, I don't even care I'll admit that, I don't care, I'm not embarrassed, I don't care. I'm 37 years old, and I've been a lifelong Eagles fan. I mean, I literally been watching the Eagles since I was 3 or 4 years old, and, I mean, I cried like a weeping baby for hours uncontrollably, and shit myself. So fuck it. I just admitted that. Oh well, everybody knows I shit my pants when they won the Super Bowl. But anyway, getting back on topic and correcting myself, Dan Marino did play 17 years, so he played 3 years less than Brady. But he ended up, at the time he had 61,000 yards. No one surpassed that. Now you have multitude of quarterbacks who have surpassed that.
Well,
Like Manning,
the
Breeze,
game's
and Brady.
played differently now too, though, by the
Oh yeah,
quarterback
they totally
position.
yeah. So I mean, he was special. Dan Marino was special this time, but he's not considered top 5 now because he didn't win the rings. If he won a couple rings, he's up there.
No, I agree. I agree. So I guess the question then is, walk me through it. He goes to the Rams,
Well, I'll tell you
198,
what. Yeah, he goes to the Rams.
198. So we know in real life, he sits behind Michael Bishop and Drew Bledsoe and just watches them go to a 5-11 season and just kind of shit all over themselves in Belichick's first year as their head coach. But in this world, we got him going to the Super Bowl champion Rams to back up potentially Kurt Warner with in the middle of the greatest show on turf, led by I guess Mike Martz, because Mike Martz took over after they won the Super Bowl that year, right?
Yeah, Mike Martz took over after '99. Dick Vermeil retired for a second time.
Yeah. So what happens to him? He's sitting there behind Kurt Warner. Is that his role to sit behind Kurt Warner?
Well, I honestly think it plays out quite like it did for Mark Bulger. I
Also,
think he
interesting about Mark Bulger, sixth round, 2000 draft, 169th overall. The guy went before Tom Brady in the same round, in the same draft.
Yeah, I
Little
mean, if you want to go through that, I mean, the 6 quarterbacks that were taken before Brady are all a joke. I mean, 2 of them actually were decent players. I can't take it away from them. I mean, Chad Pennington got selected in the first round, pick 18 out of Marshall. He went to the Jets.
gross.
He played 8 seasons for the Jets. They did go to the playoffs twice.
Not
Actually, or
yeah, he
no,
had
they went to the playoffs.
a nice career, but not what you want
Yeah,
for your first round pick at a quarterback.
agreed. He never won a championship. He never got through the AFC championship. He played 3 more seasons in Miami to end it, but he did have a nice career. Giovanni Carmazzi got drafted out of Hofstra in the 3rd round, pick 65 from San Francisco. Struggled
Woof,
immediately in
woof.
training camp. Never played a single down in the NFL. Bounced around between NFL Europe and the CFL for 5 years. Garbage. Chris Redmond, drafted out of Louisville, 3rd round pick, 75 to the Ravens. Played 4 seasons between the Ravens and the Atlanta Falcons. He was basically in and out of the NFL sporadically up until 2011. Never a full time starter. Spot starts, not great. T. Martin,
When
out of Tennessee.
his first name's T.
Yeah, T. Martin, like T. Higgins, but T. Martin was out Tennessee, selected in the 5th round, pick 163. He went to Pittsburgh. He actually won a national championship at Tennessee before he was drafted. He became a practice squad player for the Steelers for a few years and only dressed 1 game. Went to Oakland for a season in '03 and dressed for 2 games and saw the field, and he went in a abysmal
You
6 for 16.
went deep on this on the on these
Oh,
six
yeah.
guys taken ahead of Brady. You have their colleges, you got their stat lines, you got games started. Would
Well,
you
to
have
know
you have
Brady
practice squad numbers?
you gotta know who went before Brady
Okay.
and understand why it was so important that Bill Belichick was that smart enough to be like, I got this guy, and I got him at a bargain
Now,
basement
do you
price."
really think when the Patriots drafted him, they were like, "Ha ha, we got you, NFL," or are they like, "Hey, we got another quarterback. He'll get in the roster. He'll compete for backup roles. He's gonna hold a
I don't
clipboard really well." Do you think they really envisioned him as a starter?
I do, because you know what? I don't think Bill Belichick does anything without thinking it completely through, doing his homework. He's methodical. This guy knows who he's picking and he knows where he wants him. And he probably read the tea leaves and saw that, Brady was probably getting overlooked by a ton of teams and that he could sit a little bit and grab him where he grabbed him and not have to pay him big money and get him in the first round. And he got him at a bargain basement price, and the guy's the greatest of all time. I mean, Bolger goes um, that same draft. I mean, Bolger went the sixth round, 168 to New Orleans out of West Virginia. He was waived by the Saints after training camp. He spent 2 weeks with Atlanta before the Rams signed him to their practice squad. And eventually in 2001, he got activated as a third stringer. But Bolger actually, made the 53-man roster. And after the Rams went 0-5 to start 2002, that was after losing the Super Bowl to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Kurt Warner goes down with a broken finger on his throwing hand. Mark ends up coming in and relieving Kurt's then backup. So Mark Bolger was a third stringer. He ended up relieving Jamie Martin, who got hurt with an injury, and he goes 6-1 in the rest of the season, but they didn't make the playoffs. And
Yeah.
then the following year, Kurt Warner comes in, puts up a shit bomb game against the Giants in 2003, throws 5 picks and gets a concussion in the loss. Bolger takes over as full-time starter, goes 12-3, wins the NFC West, gets him a first round playoff bye. And that's all she wrote for me. He had, he went on for 6 more
He's
seasons with the Rams.
yeah, well, he stuck around, yeah, he stuck around for a while.
Yeah, and he was
With diminishing results the whole way, basically.
yeah, he was a two-time Pro Bowler. He won the Pro Bowl MVP in '03, if that means anything, but
It
he had
it does
decent numbers.
it doesn't.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And then the last guy picked before Brady was Spurgeon Win out of Southwest Texas State. He's selected in round 6-2, pick 183. He literally dressed for 10 games, 3 starts in 2 years between, the Cleveland Browns, where he was drafted out of, and Minnesota before fizzling out of the CFL by 2016. I mean, now he apparently works for a natural gas and energy company. So these are all the guys picked before Tom Brady. And so now if you're talking about Tom Brady getting picked,
So here's my thing then. There's 6 guys, there's 6 rounds. The Patriots, if they thought he was that good, they would have jumped him earlier. They would have taken him in the 5th round, the 4th round. I just can't I think that they didn't realize what they were getting. I think that,
maybe,
I think if anyone had any idea, he would have gone earlier. I think
maybe,
everyone
but
I think everyone saw a 2-time well, he won a national championship as a backup in Michigan. He started 2 seasons there. In his 2nd season, he was splitting time with another quarterback. They were each
yeah,
playing a
true.
quarter. Like it's this wasn't the makings of a Hall of Fame career when the guy gets drafted. Like this is a guy who, yeah, he's gonna make a roster. Yeah, he's gonna push your backups. He's gonna sit as number 2 guy. He's a smart kid. I think that's what they wanted. You always hope for more from your late round draft picks, but you're not realistically expecting them to even start really.
I don't know. I mean,
Especially a quarterback. When you have Drew Bledsoe, they liked who they had. They liked their quarterback.
the guy had like 14 comeback wins in college, though, in big games. He was a big game
Yeah,
player.
he
He
was.
did come in and relieve guys that when he did split, and he ended up taking the starter position back. I just think that all these guys in the NFL, and it's not just like everybody thinks their own team believes that their GM and VP of personnel, they all believe they're the smartest guy in the room. And, Bill Belichick could argue that he is the smartest guy in the room because he has the Super Bowls and the winning pedigree to back that up. And I really think that I think that he potentially knew that he had a great player and that he could sit and get him later on instead of jumping up for him. I mean, everything's 2020, hindsight's always 2020 after you look at a guy's career. But I think at the time he probably thought, hey, this kid's really good, but I think we'll be here in later rounds and I could go and I could build my team up with other guys at other positions that might not be and still come back and get this kid and maybe make something out of him. I just do. I
Hmm.
mean, that's me. I mean, look, let's get into Belichick for a second before we go on because he's the other part of the argument here. I mean, if you look at him, his career is literally tied synonymously with Tom Brady. I mean, it's almost parallel. I mean, he started coaching in 1975. He's been coaching for 41 years. He was an assistant to head coach Ted Marchibroda for the Baltimore Colts. His most notable job prior to becoming a head coach in the NFL, he was the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants in 1985, and he won 2 Super Bowls as a DC in New York in '86 and '90.
So I think the interesting thing about Belichick is how he ends up in the Patriots, though, where he was hired as the Jets head coach, and the Patriots kind of snuck him
and
and
he spurned the Jets.
he spurned the Jets after the announcement he's hired there, and the Jets had to give up the Patriots had to give up a first round pick for him to get him on their team, which is an interesting thing. You don't see that very often in any sports where coaches are traded for first round picks.
Oh, and like, why am I forgetting his underling coach's name that spurned the Colts a couple years back when Frank Reich went
McDaniels,
there? Yeah, Josh McDaniel. I'm sorry. Like literally, Belichick did the same thing that Josh McDaniel, did to the Colts. I mean, Belichick was hired, was announced, and then was like, nope, and went and took the money from from the New England Patriots. And
which you're right. You're right. He coached Cleveland. It's a minimal anything,
yeah,
but
he's been the head coach for 25 years.
like everyone does. Um, but when he comes to the Patriots and he starts this long tenure there, you're right. Their careers are totally tied together, and I think that's what makes this year in particular interesting for football is to see what's going to happen with them on separate teams. But
Well, that's where my argument comes coming later on. When I don't want to give it away just yet, but that's why the player coach conundrum comes in there. Because think about this: he's been coaching 25 years. He got hired in 1991 by the Cleveland Browns. I mean, he has a career record of 273 wins and 127 losses in 400
you're just
games
dying to
coaching
throw
the
these
Browns.
stats out, aren't you?
Yeah, hey, he's got a .68 winning percentage. The Browns, though, he was the coach of the Browns from 91 to 95, 36 wins, 44 losses. He had a 1-1 playoff record in 5 years. His best year was 95. They went 11-5. Worst season was actually, yeah, his worst season. I'm sorry, his best season was 94. His worst season was 95. They went 5-11. Um, he had Bernie Kosar from 91 to 93, but he got released after 10 games in 93 and signed with Dallas and won the Super Bowl as a backup. Jeez.
All right.
Um,
So
but he had Vinny Testaverde, and Mark
I'm
Rippon
gonna rein
and
you in
Mike
right now,
Vrabel.
Reno. I'm reining you in. I'm reining you in.
Good.
I don't want to hear the life story of Bill Belichick. I want to hear the what happens to Tom Brady on the Rams. So you're saying in 2000 and what is it? The year after the Super Bowl loss to the New England Patriots. So are the New England Patriots winning the Super Bowl without Tom Brady there?
No.
So they're not going to win it. So who's playing quarterback there? And when Drew Bledsoe goes down, who's stepping in? Who's taking that quarterback role from Drew Bledsoe and running with it or just floundering with it?
They're gonna flounder. They're gonna go to their backup that they have and they're gonna flounder. I think Belichick's gonna have to find someone down the line. He's gonna have to find another Brady. I mean, if you look at it like this is what I think would have happened. I mean, Brady going 198 to the Rams, going to a team that won a Super Bowl, the year prior, and the team that, as a Patriot, he would beat eventually and inevitably in 2001. I think Brady sits behind Warner like Bolger did in the exact same scenario. He replaces Warner and Jamie Martin and wins those 6 games in 2002, but they missed the playoffs.
So to be clear, this means that you've got the 2001 Super Bowl going to the Rams.
I do. I
So
got
you've got Kurt Warner in that era of the greatest show on turf, that little 3-year window there they had. You got him winning 2 Super Bowls in there.
yeah.
I like it. I like it.
I do. I
I
do.
agree. I just can't see without the magic season that happened there when Tom Brady first stepped in.
The
Uh,
Tuck rule, everything that stopped
yeah,
Oakland from going, and being the
uh,
team. I think that now Oakland beats them and
yeah,
probably goes with Rich Gannon and loses to the Rams.
yeah. I
I just
definitely
think
agree
that
with
team
that.
was unstoppable, except for they ran into Brady and Vinatieri's foot. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, I think that Warner would start just like he did in 2003, but like Bledsoe, Warner has a terrible game like he originally did, gets hurt. Brady starts week 2 and never looks back. But does Brady win 6 Super Bowls?
yeah. I mean, he's got legendary coach Mike Martz.
I think he makes
Gross.
Mike Martz a better coach, and I think Mike Martz has a longer career, has longevity. But I think Brady ends up only getting 3 Super Bowls if he plays with the Rams.
So
I
first
yeah.
off, one is a backup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. He'll get 1 as a backup. So he'll get 4, but as a player, as a starter, he'll get 3. So I got him going 3-6 in Super Bowl. I have him going to the Super Bowl 6 times as a starter and
With the
winning.
Rams?
Yeah, and winning
Eh,
3.
He's playing. Is he playing the whole career with the Rams, or is he's
He's
moving
playing
around?
his whole career with the
Is
Rams.
he maybe going to the Yankees or something?
No, no, he's playing his whole career with the Rams because quarterbacks like him, they don't come around often. I mean, they're not a
Te-
dime a dozen. This guy doesn't
Teams
grow on
don't
trees.
let him go. Yeah,
They don't let him go. I mean, all the greats really outside of like Peyton Manning, who had that horrific injury, and then they didn't know what he was, and then they had the shot to draft who they thought was going to be the next Peyton Manning in Andrew Luck. They did what they did, and they got rid of a guy because they thought he was hurt because he had a bad neck injury. But
yeah.
Brady, we know he's an iron horse. You know what I mean? The man stays his whole career. I mean, up until now, who knows? Now he could be with Tampa Bay again. Well, I'll just assume that maybe he leaves eventually like he did with New England, but he's winning 3 Super Bowls out of 6, so he's going 500. He wins though in '05, '08 because he never gets hurt like he did originally in New England. He
So
stays healthy in '08 and never gets hurt. He wins in
so
'05, '08, and
so 05,
2012.
'05, we got a Rams team in reality that went 6-10.
Yeah.
That Mike Martz resigns in the middle of the season due to health issues, and Joe Vitt steps in. So Joe Vitt coming in to replace Mike Martz's health issues is going to lead the Rams to a Super Bowl.
Mike Martz fights through the health issues, stays with the Rams. Even if he has other coaches coaching for that year, he comes back because when they win in '05. That gives him that just makes a resurgence in his career and
All
gives
right.
him a shot to go on.
So I got to turn the clock back a little bit here. We're in '05. But I'm curious about what happens in '03 and '04 when the Patriots win the Super Bowl in real life. Who's winning the Super Bowl those years? If the Patriot, if there's no Tom Brady, have the Patriots found their quarterback? Is Belichick winning with some no name schlub in there?
No, no, Belichick's not winning at all. I got another guy winning those.
Oh shit. Okay,
Yeah,
let me hear it. Let me hear it. The '03 Super Bowl right there. That's the year that
the Carolina Panthers played New England in '03,
yeah.
and '04 was the Eagles
Yep.
and New England. And I've got Peyton Manning going back to back in '03 and '04 because he
Mm.
got beat in the AFC Championship in '03 and he got beat in the
Ooh.
divisional round playoffs in '04 by New England, by Tom Brady. This time, no Tom Brady to stop him. He goes, he takes down Carolina, and unfortunately, he takes down the Philadelphia Eagles too, gets back to back Super Bowl MVPs, and that's going to give him 4 in his career. But I'll get back to that because I have a little thing on Peyton Manning that I would argue that he actually, who benefits the most from Brady being around besides the Rams? That
Mm.
that answer to that riddle, Peyton Manning,
Okay. Okay.
right? But I go back to Brady. I think he gets 3. I think he wins in '05, '08, and '12. I think he beats Pitt in both '05 and 2008. I think he beats the Steelers. And then I think he
So,
beats
so, so
Baltimore in 2012.
in your scenario, the star of Peyton Manning is lifted higher. The star of Ben Roethlisberger is kicked in the dirt.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kicked in the dirt.
Yeah,
He
yeah. I mean, I think Ben Roethlisberger is not winning some of those championships because he's now getting beat by Tom Brady. So now his tears are are there for the drinking.
Man,
Uh, but I mean, I think that he's gonna, like I said, he went 3-6, so he loses in '03 to Manning because I think in '03 he beats Carolina as the Rams quarterback, but loses to Manning in the Super Bowl. And I think he loses to Manning in '06, and I think he loses to Kansas City in 2018 because there's no New England to stop Patrick Mahomes in 2018. And I think this time Patrick Mahomes gets there in 18, and Patrick Mahomes ends up winning back-to-back Super Bowls 18 and 19.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Like that is, I mean, that team was looking really good in 2018. If they didn't run into those Patriots, who just seem to always find a way, I thought the same thing there. That's
Yeah.
clearly the
I mean,
repeat
some
for Patrick Mahomes early in his career, starting a career off right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's incredible. He's the best player in football right now, today, hands down, no question. And I like Lamar, but I think Patrick Mahomes is a more refined and complete player. Um, but going back to Brady, like I think some of his numbers, I don't think they're going to be too far off because that greatest show on turf and that Mike Martz offense is going to have him throwing the ball a lot. So I got him still going. I still have him as a 3-time All Pro. I have him as a 2-time MVP instead of 3-time. I have him as a 3-time Super Bowl MVP instead of 4-time. Still wins the Player of the Year twice. I think Mike Martz's coaching career gets extended and he retires after their third title together in 2012. Um, Brady did in this scenario, Brady plays 2 seasons less than he did with New England. He started in 2001. In the Rams scenario, he starts in 2003. So he's got 2 less seasons, but I think he's going to have close to 6,700 completions out of maybe 1,100 and 11,217 attempts. He's going to have 77,000 yards passing because I think he's going to pass more in LA. I think he's going to have more
So
touchdowns.
so big picture, you have got him playing up to current time still, even with the Rams.
Absolutely, because you know what? The same argument that I would have about Michael Jordan just being on another level of greatness and another mindset and on another plane of ability, I
So
have that with Tom Brady.
so
Like
so
he
so so with that happening, you got him winning in '05, you got him winning in 18, and you got him winning in 12, right? So you got Baltimore losing that one there. Um, with that all happening, you think that the Rams are still going to move to LA?
potentially that's a good one because they moved there in 2016. I weighed in on that, right?
They,
That
wait-
they've got three
they moved there.
championships.
They moved there in 2016 after 10 consecutive losing seasons.
I agree. And with 3 wins, 3 Super Bowl wins, actually more than that, they would win in 99, they would win in, 2001 because Warner would win it without playing
Mhm.
Brady.
Yep.
So now they've got 5 within a span of
And
13
you've got
years.
them losing in 3 additional ones, so they're a competitive team from '99 all the way to current times. And in this scenario you have,
They're not moving to LA. They're
I can't.
staying in St.
Yeah,
Louis.
how is that going to play? Like the fans are like, oh, there they go.
I
They're
think
the
St. Louis goes from being a
best
Cardinals
team
town to a
ever.
Rams town. Yeah. you know, fuck the Cardinals. That's what they're going to say. No, no, they love baseball there. And I think baseball would still be important. But I think honestly, um, I think they still stay in St. Louis because how can you leave a city after you've built a dynasty there, essentially,
So
brought so much winning there?
Tom
Yeah,
Brady
and you've got Tom
saves
Brady.
the franchise. He saves the whole franchise.
He does. He literally saves the franchise. They keep it, I don't know if it's still in the family, but they keep it in St. Louis. Yeah, they stay in St. Louis. They never go to LA.
Huh.
I mean, but now look at the fortunes. If you're looking at Tom Brady, right? Then you got to go to Belichick, right? And we know Belichick lost in Cleveland, but all the same numbers: 9-time AFC champion, 6-time Super Bowl champion, only NFL coach named to the NFL 100th anniversary all-time team. I mean, he's a 3-time AP NFL Coach of the Year in 03, 07, 2010. The dude's worst season was in 2000 as a Patriot, that is, as the head coach of the Patriots was in 2000 with Bledsoe at the helm at 5-11. I mean, he essentially had double-digit win seasons 18 out of 20 years with 17 double-digit win seasons in a row, including 2008 when Brady went down and Matt Castle came in. He's won the AFC East 17 out of 20 seasons and only missed the playoffs in 2000, 2002, and 2008. 8
All
was
right.
the injury year. 2002 was a fluke year where the Jets actually won the division.
I think that I feel like you gloss over this 2008 season, and where Matt Castle puts up really respectable numbers. Matt Castle makes a career off of this one year. He's able to go around and kick around through free agency, get paid multiple times because of one good year.
Well, let's get to that because you know
And
what?
I feel like this. I feel like you're underplaying the fact that
I'm not.
Belichick's the mastermind here.
I'm not. I'm ready to get into it, but my argument will make sense in the end, right? Because
Also,
well, actually,
also, also, I would say this too. In your scenario where Tom Brady's going over there, winning 3 Super Bowls, starting 1 as a backup, going there multiple times, saving the franchise, keeping him in St. Louis. He's also not tarnishing his legacy because Belichick, let's call it what it is. He skirts the rules.
absolutely. I mean, Deflategate, Spygate. I mean, the guy's responsible for almost every gate. He might as well have been at Watergate. I mean, he could have
I
been
mean,
in
I'm
the,
pretty sure he
you
was
know,
there.
He could have been digging in the files, you know what I mean, for all I know. But, okay, here's the age-old question, right? You know that age-old question, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Well, that
Yeah, the
question
egg. It's the egg.
yeah, well, that question in football, in the NFL, like, or in any sports, like, who is more responsible for winning, Alex? The coach or the players?
Well, I think that's an interesting question as well because that brings up the question: in what sport is the coach most important? I don't even think it's close. It's clearly football.
Oh, it is,
So,
absolutely.
so,
I
so
mean,
if
it's
someone wants to argue that in hockey or basketball or even baseball, I'm kind of like, that
no,
guy,
it
the guy's just filling out a lineup card or the guy's just making line changes. I mean, there's some play calling the last moments, but the guys kind of get to sit back. Their work is all done building the team and practice and all that stuff. But in football, it is every moment that coach is making a decision that influences the game.
and you're
And
coaching 11 guys on each side and
yeah,
53 guys on a roster and more guys on your practice squad, and on top of that, to go back to Jordan from last week, like, sure, I mean, that team was on the precipice, couldn't get past, you
I'm
know,
not.
the
I'm not
the
saying the coaches aren't important because of course like without the coach there in Chicago, uh,
running the triangle offense, getting a
yeah,
scheme that works,
he
getting
set up he
players
set
to
up a
work.
scheme that the players all bought into and it works and that's so important to have. But when it comes to game time, the coach is not that influential. In
No,
football,
the
it's the coach.
players.
Coach makes such a big difference. We know all these coaches who we're like, oh, he's a great coach, but he's not going to adjust his play calling. This coach always he passes too much. We see these guys. These guys decide how the team plays, and they do
Well,
it every single day with their play calling, every single week with their. I mean, when a coach hands off his play calling to an offensive coordinator, or defensive coordinator, it's a big deal.
absolutely big deal. And they still have their hand in the honey jar to a degree. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not like all those plays aren't going through them. I mean, you could look at a lot of head coaches that, yeah, they might have a defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, and those guys help design plays and come up with schemes and everything like that. But in the end, the head coach has the last call. You know what I mean? He might give them some leeway. He might give them that rope, enough rope to be able to do what they have to do. But in
yeah.
the end, I mean, everything goes through Bill Belichick. I
And
mean, in this
let's also
scenario,
be honest about Bill Belichick too. When we talk about what the coaches, what his offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators do, it's almost irrelevant because they're always there for such a short time. Like he is clearly the mastermind here. He is not riding the back of some offensive coordinator who's got Tom Brady churning because every 2 years he's got a new offensive coordinator in there.
oh yeah, I mean, it's a turnover factory, a coaching carousel that's just a complete turnover. The guy's tree has got to be long and vast. I mean, now you got the head coach now in New York, Joe Judge, right? It was
Yeah.
a
They're
wide
all,
receiver coach, you know what I mean, and
eh,
and
you
a
look around the
coordinator.
NFL, it looks like half the league is come out of the Belichick tree.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit's head coach, Matt, why am I forgetting his name? Oh my
Yeah, I
goodness,
know. But
losing my
Patricia.
mind. Matt Patricia, yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me. But you got Matt Patricia out in Detroit. You got guys everywhere. And that was like Andy Reid too in Philadelphia in his early years. And now, Doug Peterson comes
But he's
around.
from the Holmgren tree, right?
Yeah, he came from the Holmgren tree, and then Andy Reid has his own tree, and now Peterson will eventually have his own tree. I mean, it goes on because great coaches breed other great coaches. So
Yeah, but it
here's what I
also,
have.
I guess my point being is that it's not. You see sometimes where coaches question when an offensive coordinator leaves, they're like, "Oh, that's going to really affect that team." For instance, the Eagles. Everyone said it after they lost their offensive coordinator after the most recent Super Bowl, but no one's saying that when a coordinator leaves in New England. No one's saying that.
No, no, because it's
Yeah,
all Belichick. It's his
it's all
show.
Belichick.
It's
It's
his
his
show.
show. He runs the whole thing. And again, this is. I think if Matt Castle could do it, if Garoppolo could do it, if Jacoby Brissett could look pretty good.
But remember, they didn't win Super Bowls. They won games, but they didn't win Super Bowls.
I
Garoppolo
mean,
played what,
to
4
be
starts in the beginning of that season?
to,
Who
to be
knows what
fair,
would have happened?
he played 2 and Brissett played 2, and they won the Super Bowl that
Previously.
year
They did, but with Brady.
with Brady.
And that
Yeah,
was the Deflategate year, correct?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, true, they did split. I forgot Garoppolo got hurt too, right?
yeah,
In the 3rd game, the beginning of the 3rd game. And
yeah,
Matt Castle had a great season to finish, but they ended up finishing short even though they were 11-5, which is
yeah.
crazy. What 11-5 team doesn't make the playoffs? It was an anomaly year, but so here's the thing. Can Belichick win without Brady? I would say both yes and no. All right, so I'll explain that. if Belichick could get
You
his
really
hands
picked a
on,
side on that.
all right, I will. Yeah, let me define that a little bit more. If Belichick could get his hands on a caliber quarterback sometime within like 2 to 4 years after the
So
Brady draft,
so when
right?
the Brady draft starts, who's out who's around there? We got your Damon Heward's around there. We got
Yeah.
your a bunch of no names. I'm looking through the list. Matt Castle comes around in 2005.
Or Rodgers. Say he jumps up. He now think about this. He's not going to be picking 32 in 2005. He's going to be
Also,
picking somewhere else.
you can make a
Is he
case that
still there?
you can make a
Is
case
Bel
that Bledsoe, his career's not over if he's got another year of Belichick or he's not hurt.
No, Bledsoe ended up going to Dallas, I think, and having a couple productive years. They didn't win. They weren't,
Yeah,
great, but they were
I
like
mean,
contenders going to the
well,
playoffs.
what
But
kind of what schlub was coaching him there too?
well, Bledsoe, he could have held on to Bledsoe for a couple more years until he
Rolling
drafted
right into
someone.
Castle.
Yeah, and if he could have got enough wins under his belt and got them in the playoffs, he could make it to 2005 and he could say he gets an Aaron Rodgers. If he gets an Aaron Rodgers, then he may be coaching and winning a few Super Bowls. I mean, but in my mind, however, as great of a coach as Belichick is, he needed Brady more than Brady needed him. And I do not care what 2008 or the 4 games that Jimmy G and Jacoby Brissett played tell anyone. Yes, he could coach up guys, but I mean, Tom Brady is a different animal. He coaches himself. He goes to his own specialists. He's got the Tom House. There was the quarterback guru and all that stuff. I mean, players of that ilk, they're just on a different level. I mean, don't get me wrong. Great coaches can make mediocre teams and mediocre players, average players better. And a great scheme and pre and in game adjustments can lead to victories. But in the end, great players are the ones that execute those coaches' plans and plays out in the field. And great players make other players elevate their game and break through their ceiling more than coaching does. Great coaching helps, but a high
Yeah,
percentage of great teams win because of the greatness of some of their players. I just think if Belichick does not win enough in New England in those first 4 seasons, he could be out. And
wow.
yeah, and if he gets a top caliber quarterback at some point in his early tenure, you could see him replicate what he did over the last 20 years with Tom Brady. But I think without Brady, he stays with Bledsoe for a few more years, gets fired from New England before he could even draft Aaron Rodgers in 2005. And I think he goes on to bounce around the league as a D coordinator again until one of these teams, one of his teams wins another Super Bowl as the defensive coordinator, in which he'll get another coaching job. Maybe even the Jets will take one more shot at him after he spurned them. You know what I mean? But I think Brady would experience more success. And I'll tell you what, this year, 2020, Tampa Bay Bucks with Bruce Arians, with Godwin, with
Like
Godwin, Mike
Evans.
Evans, with Gronk, with OJ Howard, with getting, maybe developing the running game a little bit more, hoping their defense. You're gonna know if Tampa Bay really puts a season together and New
But
England fizzles
but
out.
but is it fair if Tom Brady doesn't to say that, "Oh, it was always Belichick"? Because I don't know if it is fair. Because now we're saying that, "Oh, this 43-year-old quarterback on a new team couldn't play very well." Turns out Belichick was the guy.
No, because I
That's
think
almost not
Brady's
fair to
older.
him either. Yeah, because
No,
Brady's
I
he's a
think Brady's older.
43-year-old man. If he's bad, it's probably because he's old.
I think 37-year-old Tom Brady beats Tennessee last year. You know what I mean? In the playoffs. I think 37-year-old Tom Brady with maybe one or two better weapons might beat Kansas City again. Who knows? Because of how great Belichick is as a coach and a play caller and a schemer.
Mhm.
But I think you saw 42-year-old Tom Brady's arm starting to go a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think the lack of weapons was a bad excuse. Because I'll tell you what, again, oh God, God, my homerism. But you saw a young 27-year-old Carson Wentz with a bunch of guys working at the Acme, with no disrespect to those guys, because I love them. I love these guys. I love Deontay Burnett. You know what I mean? I love Robert Harris. Yeah, I think it's Robert. I love Greg Ward and stuff like that. But these guys, were basically all practice squatters and guys that were picked up off the street. And he put together 4 games, and these guys looked heroic. Brady had, a lot. He still had Julian Edelman, who's
Yeah,
still considered one of the
but
top
but
receivers.
the Patriots have been picking guys off the scrap heap for a
Oh my
long,
god.
long time.
Think
They've
about
been
Brady's early career. I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
they've
David
been
Givens, Deion Branch, and Troy Brown, none of them were T.O.
and they got guys that, who everyone had given up on, like your Corey Dillons even, like
Wes
these guys.
Welkers.
Yeah, Wes Welker's a guy who's everyone had totally given up on.
Yeah,
Like,
Amendola, another guy that was great for them for a couple of years. I mean, they got Randy Moss for a 4th round pick off, you know what I mean, from Oakland, and the guys, the resurgence. I mean, that was his, obviously, that was his best squad he had, Welker and Moss. I mean, but a younger Brady and Belichick possibly get back to the Super Bowl again. But I think the age and time and the lack of arm strength and maybe the lack of cognitive speed are starting to catch up. But I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens this year. I want to see if maybe having a Chris Godwin and Gronk and Mike Evans change that. You know what I mean? Maybe those guys are young enough and on another level from the receivers he had last year. But I mean, still, he had better receivers than some other teams had, and he didn't get it done. And this year will be a test. But I agree with you. I don't think it's fair to say that because I think he's getting older. And guys don't get better usually as they get older. They get smarter, they get more seasoned, but they don't get physically better. I mean, it's a rarity. So look, I'll put it to you this way though. Going back to how I would finish this whole thing is who benefits the most from Tom Brady going to the Rams again, other than the Rams? Peyton Manning. Um,
I mean, you gave him 2 extra rings.
yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to go a little further. It's a little diabolical, but in 17 head-to-head matchups between the two, specifically, between interconference matchups and the AFC postseason matchups, Brady beat him 11 times out of those 17. So he's 11-6 over Manning. Peyton Manning actually holds a playoff head-to-head record over Brady in their 5 matchups in the playoffs. He's got a 3-2 lead on him. And the crazy thing is, he actually won 3 of those in the AFC Championship. He won in 2006, 13, and 15. He holds 3 AFC Championship victories over Brady. However, I mean, he beat Peyton in 2003 and to go on to win the Super Bowl against the Panthers, and he beat him again in 2004 to go on and beat the Eagles. I mean, so that's, his 3 Super Bowl victories in 4 years. Now I'm giving Peyton 2 of those Super Bowls. So essentially, if Peyton Manning saw less of Brady throughout his career as a major regular season and playoff AFC rival, we're not only looking at an overall better win total and percentage for Peyton Manning throughout his career, but you're looking at possibly increasing his career numbers across the board and potentially watching Peyton hoist up 2 more Lombardi trophies
And
and a few Super Bowl MVPs.
and I agree. In your scenario, you have given the legacy boost to Peyton Manning and the legacy destroyer to Jerome Bettis
Roethlisberger.
and Ben Roethlisberger, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
who the hell are those 2 losers?
No, they get there, but they don't win. They don't beat Seattle this time
Yeah,
around,
they're a bunch of also rans, those guys.
yeah. And, yeah, and I mean, in this scenario, Brady doesn't win the Super Bowl with the Rams until 2005, so potentially that's opening door for Manning to get 2 more rings before Brady does in 2003 and 2004. That would give Manning 4 Super Bowl victories to Tom's 3 with Peyton Manning's other numbers. I think that would catapult him over Joe Montana as the GOAT quarterback.
Peyton Manning's the GOAT.
Peyton Manning is the GOAT in the end, and Brady's not.
I'm gonna tell you where I feel like we disagree.
Go ahead.
And the whose legacy is gonna be the most boosted in this scenario.
Go
Because
ahead. Shoot.
I'm looking at a guy whose legacy is amazing to begin with, arguably the best. His legacy is boosted. And I'm talking about Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, without Tom Brady, is going to ride Drew Bledsoe. He's going to ride Drew Bledsoe's backups. Your Matt Castle hadn't played football, hadn't started a football game since high school, and was thrown in there and turned in a winning record. Imagine if he gets a guy who's played football in college, like this guy. Belichick is the mastermind. Belichick's going to do whatever it takes. He's going to break the rules. He's going to do dirty things. He's going to spy on you. It doesn't
Could
matter.
cheat his way to the
You-
top.
You're,
You're
you're
giving
going
him
to catch.
way too much credit.
You're, I mean, this is what he's done. His whole life is about whatever it takes to win. Yeah, he'll break the rules.
But he
But
could do that because he had Tom Brady, though.
but guess what? Offensive linemen hold. We all break the rules. We're all out there trying to find the little edge we can get. Belichick is the single greatest coach of all time in professional sports because he is unabashedly un he's unwilling to admit it. Like we all know what he does, and he doesn't even care. He just says doesn't answer questions when he's asked them. He is he's the goat. Bill Belichick is the goat. I bet
Oh, wow.
in my
Coach
scenario
over player.
in my
Coach over
scenario,
player.
the Patriots don't win the 6 Super Bowls, but I see him winning 4 of them. I see him at least getting 4. Now,
And he's
maybe
getting
maybe
with Bledsoe?
he's getting with Bledsoe. When Bledsoe goes down, inevitably, he's gonna win it with his backups. Then the backups will stick around for a couple years, and then he'll just recycle guys. He won't have that one overarching guy who's gonna sit there and take the credit away from Bill Belichick like Tom Brady's been doing. And I think that's Bill Belichick's probably wanted Tom Brady out for quite some time because he realizes his legacy is being diminished by Brady's star. And I think that Belichick
Wow.
would have been doing this with
Wow.
not any quarterback. He's going to have to go out there and find his quarterbacks. But they had the quarterback in Drew Bledsoe. They had signed him to a 10-year contract in 2001. Like this was a guy they thought was the guy. Now, if he doesn't come in and get ousted by the next hot young thing coming up, I mean, I'm inclined to think Bledsoe plays at least 5 years here.
I vehemently disagree, but but please, I respect you, so go on.
And that's what I think is going to happen here. I think you're going to see Belichick stick around and with a rotating cast of quarterbacks, win with multiple quarterbacks. He's going to be your Joe Gibbs, except for do it for longer on the same team and like can just totally. I'm not that he's not already locked up as the greatest coach of all time in the NFL, but you take away the guy who's kind of stolen a little bit of his spotlight when he's able to show he's able to do it with all the
Or give him a
recycled.
career.
So I think in the Belichick Brady matchup, I think if I can pick one for my team, I'm taking Belichick.
Wow, I love that you went the complete other way with that, right? I vehemently and fiercely disagree, but I mean, look, outside of Mark Rippon, right, who he had in Cleveland, he had Testaverde, Kozar, Rippon, and Bledsoe.
I,
All
I
good
think
quarterbacks.
I,
All
I
good
think I,
quarterbacks.
I think Belichick learned from his time there. I think by the time he came to the Patriots, he was a differently organized, differently focused coach. And I think I mean you always hear about the Patriot way, and
All
that's not because of Tom Brady.
I
That's because of Belichick. It's the standards he sets there.
Sure, he sets the standards, but he needs the goat. He needs the goat to make sure the standard holds.
I mean,
And those
but even when we call him the goat, is he the goat? Like
well, he wouldn't be the goat technically in my
stats
scenario.
his stats tell me he's a good quarterback. Like he puts up good like he's got longevity, he's got durability. I'm not gonna take those things away from him, but this guy spent a few of those years where you could almost call him a game manager. Like where he
Well,
would where he was throwing and he was throwing passes in the 20s. Like Belichick wasn't winning on the quarterback. He was winning on defense. He was winning on clock control. He was winning on play calling. He was winning
good run game
on the foot kicking game. He
and
was
the
winning
greatest field
on
general.
special teams. He didn't win just on the arms of quarterbacks. Like I'm not saying take. I'm not trying to take credit away from Brady, even though clearly I am. I'm saying that he won the games so many different ways outside of just on the arm of the quarterback.
Well, you said that he would win, but he wouldn't win as much, right?
Yeah.
And I said
No,
Brady would win, but he wouldn't win as much. So looking at this from that standpoint, I think we both agree 100% that these guys go hand in hand. They're synonymous with each
they're
other. Their
better
their
together.
careers, yes, exactly. Their careers are interwoven and are better together. They made magic. I just happen to believe that if they didn't come together, yes, I still don't have Tom Brady as the GOAT. In my scenario, I have Peyton Manning as the GOAT, and Tom Brady's probably still a Hall of Famer without a doubt. And he's still one of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks, but he's not the top quarterback, but
And
he's a
you know what?
top quarterback.
I agree with you. I think the legacy that gets held down by Brady on the Patriots is, of course, Peyton Manning. I would agree that his legacy is boosted, and he probably does win an additional 2 Super Bowls while with the Colts. Now, I would also like to talk about what happens to Brady when he goes to St. Louis. So I agree with you. He sits there. Brady is a proficient quarterback. He's a quick study. He's all the things you want. He is a starting quarterback in the NFL without Belichick. Is he gonna win after? Because we have. I'll give you the 2 Super Bowl wins there for Kurt Warner. So in 2002, Brady's gonna step in at the time that Marshall Faulk is in a full on decline, and the rest of the greatest show on turf is kind of breaking up. He doesn't have the weapons that Kurt Warner had. He's gonna see a pretty middling team. And I think Brady is able to hold on and play there. And I think Brady sticks out his career there, but I don't think he wins Super Bowls there. I think he gets to sits around. He gets to as a backup gets the ring, but I think he kicks around, makes the playoffs a couple years, misses the playoffs a couple years. He doesn't have a lot of talent around him during that era after Kurt Warner leaves. Like there really isn't. It's 2004. They draft Steven Jackson. There's not a lot of other talent on this team during that whole time.
Well, let me
And
interject real quickly on that
Mike
point.
Martz goes down, and then it's a shuffling coaches the whole time after that. But I'll let you interrupt there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me interject real quick on that point. But if you see the amount of skill that Tom Brady has, I mean, you see him put wins together. And then again, Mark Bolger put wins together in 2003 and like had them dominate.
I think
We
he does
both
better than Mark
agree.
Bolger. He does
Yeah,
better
we
than Mark
both
Bolger.
agree he's better than Bolger. So he probably gets through the playoffs where Bolger didn't, right?
Well,
Now you got to
he gets further. I agree. The team does better. I don't think it's Super Bowl better.
But now you got to think that they see how talented he is, and that team historically does spend money. I mean, look at the last 6 or 7 years with that team. They've gone and spent money, whether it be on coaching, players, free agency. They pull up picks to get higher up in the draft. I mean, they are not afraid. That personnel group there, that organization themselves, the general manager of that organization, they're not afraid to put out and shell out money
I mean,
and bring people in.
they don't make good picks.
Yeah, I feel like
I mean,
they would have seen
look at
him
their
and they
first
would have built a
round.
team around him. Yeah,
This team struggles with their first round picks every year. I mean, you look going back. I mean, I mean, Robert Quinn. Other than that, Chris Long back in '08. Like the rest of their picks don't look that good.
yeah, the offensive
Tavon
lineman was
Austin.
a bust.
They're taking Tavon Austin with 8. They're taking Greg Robinson. I mean, Michael
Greg
Brocker.
Robinson was a
I mean,
bust.
Sam Bradford. I mean, he's got a career, but not a number one overall kind of career. Like this team is not
But
showing me the signs that they're able to build a team around a guy.
that's the thing though. They also had to get quarterbacks because they never had good quarterback play.
I mean,
They traded for Foles. They
but
jumped up.
back then they only spent the one high pick on Sam Bradford. Before that, they thought Bolger was the guy, and I think they're good with Tom Brady. They have the
Yeah,
guy,
they
but
jump up for Goff.
they were never able to. Yeah, I mean, but that's more recent. When back when
Well,
Bolger's there, like they never did anything to build anything around Bolger.
but my point is, I think they would have with Brady because I think Brady would have forced them to build. I think he would have. I think he would have. Look at Tom Brady, what he did in New England. I mean, he literally was like taking pay cuts, taking less money than he was worth, than he deserved to bring players in so they could go back and just win countless championships. I
I
think
think
Brady would have spoken up.
I think because Belichick would have been like, we'll just replace him. I think Belichick. I think he's wanted to. I think Belichick's wanted to replace him. I think that there's been a constant infighting in that organization about that this whole time.
So continue on. I want to hear what you think about like finish up what Brady's career would have been like. I'm intrigued by this.
I think Brady has a respectable career. I think he makes the playoffs several years. He might even go on a couple divisional, maybe even conference. Maybe makes a couple conference runs, but like he's not winning Super Bowls. And I would say he probably retires around. I'd say he's probably retiring around the age of 36, around 2013. And we all say, you know what? That's a good career. That guy had a nice career. Didn't win anything. He was a solid starter. But I don't think he's the Hall of Famer you have him as. I think that this guy doesn't have the system, the perfect storm around him that the Patriots have been. I don't see it happening.
Wow. So no Super Bowls for Tom
No,
Brady.
well, he got to sit there and watch one real
Whoo!
closely. You have to watch Kurt Warner win one in 2001, the one that he wins in if he's on the Patriots.
So you just took a gigantic shit on the GOAT, right?
The
Bumped up Peyton,
goat, the
like we
Ram.
agreed. Well, bumped up Belichick, but admitted that like Peyton too would have, succeeded
Peyton
more.
had better success, yeah, getting rid
But
of that combination of Brady and Belichick. And like I said, because Belichick is not as good without Brady, but
but
Belichick is still multiple Super Bowl champion
Belichick gets 4 with cleaning lady, and Brady gets none.
with whoever
Like
shows up that day.
Jesus.
With whoever shows up that day, Belichick gets 4.
My mind, oh my god, I feel like a shoe, like with a razor blade on the end, just came and took off the top of my head. Like I'm blown away by this. In my mind, I do agree that Belichick is great, and I think he was a great defensive coordinator. Obviously, won a few Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator, and I think the man has a brilliant mind. I just can't see him in the end. I think the reason he was elevated is because Brady was so great. And all those other guys, though good players, though they had longevity in their career, they bounced around the NFL. They never won the big game. They never got it done in the playoffs. I mean, Bledsoe lost one Super Bowl to the Packers, and that was the only Super Bowl he ever reached. Um, and Bernie Kosar, like he got close in the playoffs, but we all know what happened against Denver. And Rippon won one. Okay, Rippon won a Super Bowl with Washington. But in the end, I mean, Belichick gets 4 and Brady gets none. And
Brady gets
Belichick takes me, a cleaning lady, and, and a bunch of carnival workers and wins and wins 4 Super Bowls. That is that's astounding.
I mean, I don't
I
know why I feel like you're really kinda shitting
listen,
all over my man, Drew Bledsoe right now. I don't know what you think he's doing.
you bent over the goat, did him without any lube, right? Pushed him aside, didn't even kiss him when you fucked him. You know what I mean? And basically said, "You're never going to be anything because Belichick made you better."
Belichick
I,
is the best of all time.
I'm,
He's the GOAT.
wow. Okay, I love it, but I love it because it's so outlandish that it makes me smile in a world where it's a parallel universe where Bill Belichick's cheating and evilness is so
I mean,
tyrannical that he
it
overcomes
it's
everything.
it's worked out pretty well for him in the world we live in right now.
Listen, I think if you're looking at a coach who benefits from Belichick, say for me, the coach that would benefit the most from Brady not being a Patriot is Andy Reid. Because he's possibly more successful. You know what I mean in those years,
I
with
mean
both Kansas City and the Eagles. I mean, but jeez, I mean, I don't know. I can't fathom it. To me, it's always I agree, man. Great coaches can do wonders, man. They can inspire guys like you've never seen before. They can make the mediocre and average player better with just tutelage and mental training and physical training and pushing guys beyond their limits. But I think in the end, the greatest teams always have the greatest players, a few great players. And I mean, look at Jordan. I mean, we agreed last week. Jordan does not, the Bulls don't win without Jordan,
correct.
regardless of, Phil Jackson and
Yep.
Scottie Pippen and all those guys. They needed Jordan. That goes the same. And for me with the Patriots, they're maybe they have a couple good seasons, but
I
no
think this will
way.
be a conversation we'll be revisiting in a couple years when Belichick is able to win with some schlub in there, and you're gonna be like, "God damn it! It was just always about Belichick and whatever guy he trained up."
We will see. I mean, look at Belichick's numbers. I mean, they are impressive. I mean, but again, because of Brady, I mean, if you look at Bill Belichick, I mean, he's the third all-time winningest coach in NFL history at 273 wins. And he's 68 years old. That's 25 years as a head coach. George Halas coached for 40 years, retired at 72, and has 318. Don Shula retired 3 years early, at 65, 3 years younger than Belichick is now, but he coached for 33 years and he has 328. Belichick is going to take whatever cleaning lady is out there, you know what I mean, or street sweeper, and he's going to surpass those two coaches in all-time wins. He's definitely going to do it. Um, but he would have been nowhere near close enough if not for Brady. I mean, Andy Reid definitely would have had more wins in his career than Belichick had Brady not been a Patriot.
I mean, give Donovan McNabb to the Patriots, see what happens.
Possibly elevates his career a little bit more.
I mean, I
You
think
know,
I think anyone you put with them was going to be elevated.
yeah, I mean, true. I mean, I do think he would have coached guys up, but in the end, I think Brady has an it factor that gets them over the hump, that gets them those comeback drives, that gets them those last minute wins, that that gets Vinatieri's foot, you know what I mean, in place to win that Super Bowl in '01 and start it all. I mean, and essentially against the Eagles in 2004, same thing. Against Carolina. I think, Brady got him where they needed to be. Vinatieri kicked the field goal. Maybe he's the real reason both of them have as many Super Bowls as they have.
Special teams. That's a big part.
Vinatieri's right foot, yeah, I mean, is really the goat. But I mean, I can't. It's
So,
blown my mind.
so,
And you know
so,
what?
so I've taken away his rings, but I can't take away his good looks. Um,
So he still gets Giselle.
he still Giziel, as as
Yes,
Anthony would say. Um,
unbelievable,
but
unbelievable.
I think I'd like to bring this to a little bit of a close here with when you think of Tom Brady, what's the image that comes to your head? Like what do you picture with Tom Brady in the world we live in, not this insane world where you've got him winning Super Bowls with the Rams?
An indomitable will. I mean, just a complete competitor and gamer. I mean, the type of guy who doesn't shake hands because he's a bitter piece of shit at the end of games that he loses because he is that focused on winning that he just refuses to lose. I mean, the guy has more comebacks and more big games than the biggest names that we've seen in our, across the field in our life. I mean, I watched Joe Montana as a kid, and I mean, I used to see him just blow up the Eagles, those great Eagles defenses, that I'm like, "Oh god, why is this guy gotta get the ball back?" And I'm more afraid of Brady. You know what I mean? I was more afraid of Brady. He's on another level, and that's why I think when I think of him, I think of him being the greatest for a reason. I mean, despite the fact that I hate the Patriots and I'm not a fan of the guy, on the football field. I love his competitive spirit, and I think if you put him on any other competitive team in any other year, he wins. Where I don't think Belichick can always take another team without a player of his caliber and win.
I guess we'll find out this year. But
Hey, hey, I got a fun fact for you, by the way.
yeah,
You know who the guy was that was actually picked 198th in the sixth round by the Rams before Brady?
I was looking at it. Who is it?
Matt Bowen, strong safety out of Iowa. He actually played 7 years in the league. He
Yeah.
bounced around between the Rams, Green Bay, Washington, and Buffalo. His best season came in '03 with Washington. He started 16 games and had 3 picks.
So
But
in my scenario, I've got the Rams downgrading from Bowen to Brady.
Bowen would have been more productive. Wow. Wow. That's a sickening thought. Oh god. Tom Brady is gonna punch you in the face if he ever meets you for this. This is
I'm telling you what, but Bill Belichick, he's shaking my hand.
seriously.
The moment
Bill
I think
Belichick's giving you a hand job, and Tom Brady's roundhousing your head off your shoulders, like jumping Van Damme style in Bloodsport.
when I think of Tom Brady, I think of the when I think of an image of Tom Brady, it's always the first Super Bowl when he seemed shocked by it with his hands on his head while all the confetti was falling down. That's the image I think of when I think of what's the first thing that comes to my mind when you say Tom Brady. Um, but yeah, I think that that's gonna wrap up what we're doing here. I think we should throw all these plugs. Thank some people. You want to handle our little thanks there, Reno?
Uh, I was gonna say, let's thank Maria Labanovic for our audio, sound, and engineering. She's a pro, and we'd like to thank her. I'd like to thank Anthony Ziccola, our producer, Lantern Light Studios, of course, for putting the production on and having us a part of this. And thank our other podcast teams, Game Johns and Screen Johns, for putting the promo out there for us and helping us out. And also want to thank you, the audience. Guys, please tweet us at the GGNP podcast on Twitter. We'd love to hear back from you.
Yeah, tell me I'm wrong, even though I'm not.
What's that?
So they can come tell me I'm wrong, even though I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, you can hit me or Alex up. You can hit me up at the Kid Reno on Twitter or Instagram, same name, the Kid spelled with two D's. You can hit Alex up at Alex Fitz. That's ALEXFITZ 44
44.
on Twitter. You can go to our website, ggmpodcast.com, where you can see like all the platforms that actually play the show. Also, please, if you like this episode, please go to Apple Podcasts, give us 5-star rating, give us a shout out, let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, any topics that you like to talk about, more that you want to hear, give us ideas. We love the constructive criticism, feedback, whatever you have. We'll take it all and
Reno,
just
you may have had a bad take in Brady there, but you did wrap up that show pretty nice there.
thanks. Also, want to tell you guys to watch out for our other two podcasts. Game Johns comes out every Thursday morning, and Screen Johns is the new podcast.
I was wrong. You said that already.
Yeah, it's going to be on. It's going to be on Wednesday, starting this upcoming week. So, and other than that, any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, I think I'm good. I just wanted to say that this has been one of the greatest games never played.